exactly 2 weeks ago today that it launched from Space Launch Complex 37, right over there, Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Went 66,000 miles around the Earth. Its furthest point out was 3,600 miles. Came screaming back into Earth at 20,000 miles an hour, building up 4,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures on the heat shield that you see here, and made a pinpoint landing, splashdown in the Pacific Ocean 600 miles off the coast of California, traveled the 600 miles back ashore, and then completed a trek of 2,700 miles across the U.S., arriving here at Kennedy yesterday. And we are so pleased to have Orion back. We've got folks here today to talk a little bit about the journey and about what's next. Mr. Jules Schneider from Lockheed Martin, he'll be talking about what's next. Louis Garcia in the blue shirt, he'll be talking about the recovery operations and the journey back home. And then for questions and answers, we have Phil Weber and Glenn Shen. Phil is with the Ground Systems Development and Operations Program here at Kennedy, which is responsible for recovery and the transport back. And Glenn is with the Orion production operations team. So without any further ado, let's turn things over to Louis and find out a little bit more. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning. I'm Louis Garcia, NASA Ground Operations Manager, and I manage the transportation across country. It was an honor and a privilege to bring America's Orion spacecraft back home to Kennedy Space Center. We departed Naval Base San Diego Wednesday, December 10th, around 10 p.m., and we arrived yesterday, December 18th at noon. Our 7-member team, consisting of NASA, Jacobs, and Lockheed Martin personnel, worked collectively with the carrier to travel through 8 states in 8 days. We provided conditioned air to the crew module while monitoring the crew module temperatures. We took hazardous readings at every stop and provided 24-hour security. Our convoy also had another tractor trailer with a spare purge unit and generator, spare parts and tools. We had an extra tractor in the convoy in case we needed to change the tractor out. The weather en route cooperated nicely, and we're thrilled to be back here at the Kennedy Space Center. That's all I have. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce Jules Schneider with Lockheed Martin. Jules. So first of all, we're very excited to have Orion back home at the Kennedy Space Center. A little bit about what's going to happen in the near future. So for the year-end holiday shutdown, the vehicle's basically going to stay, as you see it right now, in this facility. And the whole Orion team is going to take some well-deserved downtime until the first of the year. We'll come back at the first of the year, and then we'll continue to gather data that we need to get off the vehicle to complete the 90-day EFT-1 flight test final report that we owe NASA on March the 5th, which is launch day plus 90 days. We did deliver the quick look report today. It was due 14 days after the mission, which is today. That went to NASA, I believe, this morning. So that's what we're going to do in the near term. I think we're going to take some questions. You guys are able to come up to this yellow line when you feel the need to or when you want to, and we'll take some questions and hopefully get you some answers. Okay? And I would ask you gentlemen to please repeat the question for the benefit of those who don't have it.
Question, Mike, right.
Can you give us a quick summary about the quick report that you returned to NASA?
Sure. So there were 87 flight test objectives. We met 85 of those. That's at the very high level. The 2 we didn't meet were associated with the CMUS, the crew module uprighting system. I don't know if you guys noticed, but when we splash down, the big orange balloons that pop out on the front end of the vehicle to keep the vehicle from tipping over. We actually had, I believe, 4 out of the 5 deployed, but 2 of those 4 lost their pressure quickly. 2 stayed pressurized. So the two flight test objectives that we did not meet were associated with that. They were considered minor objectives, and the team is off trying to figure out what caused that. And so one of the first things we're going to do when we come back from the first of the year is look into the SEMA system and pinpoint exactly what caused those two to deflate and one not to deploy. Those were the only objectives on the entire flight that were not met.
Had it not landed the way it did.
Excuse me, we have a mic here. We need everybody at the mic. You're going to ask questions. You need to have it on, please. Thank you.
Had it not landed the way it did, would the balloons as a...
Yes. We don't need all five. Obviously, we have redundancy built into the system. So had we gone into what they call a stable tube condition, we wouldn't have gone because the balloons that inflated would have kept us in stable.
For Jules, Ken Kramer, Universe Today and American Space. Can you tell us, big objective here was the heat shield. How does it look? How does the capsule look to you? How did the heat shield survive? And how did all the systems operate on it, that you can tell us?
Yeah, I think you guys probably heard that everyone from the technical team, both Lockheed Martin, NASA, and all of our teammates was incredibly pleased with the way the vehicle performed. Again, we met all of our objectives. All of the separation events went off as planned, when they were planned. All of the pyro events happened nominally. The heat shield performs very well. I don't know if you can tell. We've actually taken a few core samples off the heat shield already, and they're looking at those. We will be removing the heat shield from this vehicle later in February, so we'll get an even better look at it. But the short answer, Ken, is everybody was incredibly pleased with the performance of the vehicle, and I mean, I think you can tell it came through the trial by fire pretty well.
Jules, James in for today. I was also just going to ask about the heat shield. I just wonder if you could just elaborate a little bit further on how important this test will be to what I guess I understand is already sort of a redesign that's in work of the shield, and also, I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. So obviously the reason we fly these missions is to get that kind of data, right? So the data that we'll get off of the performance of this heat shield will go into the development of the next generation of the heat shield. But as far as I know, and I'm not on the design side, I don't think there are wholesale changes coming to the heat shield. I believe that we'll just learn from this mission and incorporate any kind of improvements we need to incorporate based on what we learn. But I don't think there are large wholesale changes coming to the heat shield design. That's all I know. I don't know anymore. I think Mark Geyer addressed a similar question at the press conference right after the mission.
I was just curious when you might get back to the ONC, and also if you could speak to, you're still sort of celebrating the success so far, but got a long road to hoe to get to another flight opportunity, which might be sort of difficult.
Sure. So this vehicle is going to stay here. Go ahead.
The long road ahead. So we've talked about that a lot. It's kind of a two-edged sword because, of course, you guys felt the buzz that was going on around here on launch day, right? It's like the whole entire space flight team around the country was in charge. So we really don't like the idea of waiting for this for years. But we also talked to our whole team down here. We said, we got the baseline theory, what this SLS and Orion can look like in 2011. It's about 3 years ago. We got about 3 more years to go until we get one. Just think of that in terms of the duration of what we got to put together. We're at Humphrey right now. That's what we told our team. It's a KSC, right? And we have a tremendous amount to complete in the next 3 years. So, although we want to do the launch as soon as we possibly can, we've got to get all the ground systems finished, validated, ready to receive the flight hardware, and then do the processing and launch safely. So, yeah, we feel both ways about it, right? We want to launch soon, but we got to have the time to get it ready.
Yeah, and I was just going to address you. Ask when we might get back to the ONC. So we'll be in here. We're going to leave here and go to the PHSF to offload the hazardous commodities that are still on the vehicle in mid-January. We're going to come back into here and do some more work on it. Go back to the PHSF and get it completely decontaminated, and then probably go to the ONC building. So it's probably late March, early April before we get back to the OEC. We'll do most of the work on the vehicle in support of getting the data we need to finish the report here in this facility.
Hi, Stephen Clark with Spaceflight Now. Since it's going to be a little bit before you go back to the ONC building, can you walk me through the timeline of when you start disassembling the vehicle, how much you take out, how much is it stripped down to the pressure shell, what all do you take off the vehicle, and also more, when do you expect the pressure shell for EM-1 crew module to arrive?
So, as soon as we get back from the holidays, January the 5th, we'll start taking the back shell panels off the content section, so we can expose all of the aft bay components on the outside of the pressure shell. We've already been inside the pressure vessel out on the pier. We'll do some more work in there. There is a lot of debate right now as to how much of the vehicle we're going to take apart. Because the vehicle performed so well, there's some people rethinking about how much we want to disassemble and how much we may want to keep assembled so we can use it going forward on the ground, of course, doing testing, etc. So I can't tell you exactly how much we're going to take apart. We're definitely taking the back shell panels off. We're definitely taking the heat shield off. But after that, it's probably still being discussed as to how much further we'll take the vehicle apart. The EM-1 pressure vessel should arrive here in November of 15. Okay?
Amy Green of WMSD Public Radio. I wondered if you could talk to us a little bit about what we're seeing here, the coloring of the capsule, is that scorching from the re-entry into the atmosphere? And also just, I wondered if you could talk to us a little bit about what you're already learning from this first test mission as far as applying those lessons to future missions of the Orion, and also here on Earth. I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head, lessons in computers are, will people see that in our personal computers in our home? How will people see real-life applications of lessons from this mission?
Coloration, I think some of it, a lot of it I think is due to the re-entry, the heating, but I think once we land in the ocean, right, so we're real hot coming down, and then we splash down in the ocean and we get the seawater on it, so that could have contributed to some of what you see behind you. What we're learning so far, we haven't gotten, I don't know what percentage of the data we've gotten off the vehicle. It's not a huge percentage yet that we've gotten off. So the quick look summary that we delivered today, it was pretty high level. We talked about how many of the objectives we met. We talked about the fact that we did collect all the data that we expected to collect, which was, did all the sensors work and did we get all the data? The answer is yes. So it was a very successful flight with respect to acquiring all the data we expected to acquire. We just haven't had the time to analyze it yet. So it's kind of hard to tell, to answer the question as to what changes we're going to make based on that. But we do have the data, and we'll spend the next months, probably years, looking at it and rolling that into the design going forward. As far as the computers, I can't speak too intelligently about the computers on board. I can tell you they performed exactly as they were expected to perform, and I think some of the other facts about their capability for computing has been published out there.
Just to mention more about learning, Louis Garcia and the landing and recovery team, they're learning as we speak, as they recovered and returned the vehicle here to KSC to practice and try out all their procedures that they've planned and written thus far. And we're going to keep learning as much as we can as we disassemble the vehicle and get it refurbished for the next flight for Ascent Abort 2, because as you guys know, this vehicle would be the potential vehicle for refurb and reflight on Ascent Abort 2 mission in roughly 2018-2019 timeframe. So we'll be learning as much as possible all the practical things that we've learned from as we do business here with this vehicle.
I'm Jim Siegel. I'm with the Celebration Independent newspaper, and I have a general question. Orion is obviously a historic next step in space exploration, but what would you tell Americans about why it's important to continue space exploration with Orion or with any of the other programs for that matter? In other words, what's in it for the average American?
So we do get that a lot, and it's really the way we feel it's embedded in the human psyche, the human spirit to explore, right? It's Lewis and Clark all over again. Instead of going across the Missouri River out to the Pacific, we're looking at going out across the solar system. Part of the motivation is making sure that as a species we survive, and there are those that really believe that a single planet species isn't going to be able to make it in the long haul. And I'm talking about tens of millions of years in the future. So having the ability to go out and destroy one pilgrims, out into the solar system. This is pretty destroy Mars. It probably isn't going to happen in my lifetime where we're actually having pilgrims out there at that point. But we will have the explorers out there in my lifetime.
Hi, Evan Lambert with WKMG Local 6. This is not a technical question, but can somebody who was with Orion for the drive back talk about what that was like, just taking this thing interstates across the country? Did anyone stop and ask what it was? Talk a little bit about some of that local stuff.
Well, what was the trip like cross country? Did anyone ask about it? And first of all, interstates it's really not the route we took. The carrier applies for permits state to state, and we actually didn't get on an interstate until Mississippi. So we went all the way from San Diego to Mississippi on back roads. We treated this as kind of black ops. For safety and security reasons, we didn't let out who we were or where we were. Our PAO folks wanted us to tweet out so people could follow us. But since we did have hazardous commodities on board, basically the only people that knew who we were some curious folks at truck stops or front desk receptionists at the hotels where we stayed. It was a cohesive team, a lot of camaraderie. We worked with the carriers, 90% of carrier operation, getting the capsule from point A to point B. The NASA team was in the convoy to take care of the care and feeding of the ship, make sure there were no leaks, make sure we kept the temperatures right, and that we were ready to go when the truck driver said, let's go. It was an 8-day trip, and I'd like to do it again next week. It was very exciting, and a lot of times going down back roads, we would say to ourselves, I wonder if these people know that we have a $350 million spacecraft in here going right by their neighborhood.
It's a more regular job.
So it's very exciting, and we are thrilled to be back, like I said earlier.
Leah Cheshire with Natural Geographic Space Grant and NASA Social. You discussed that there were some hazardous materials on board Orion that would have to be removed, and I was curious as to what those were.
So the capsule's propulsion system is a monopropellant hydrazine system. So we loaded around 300 pounds of hydrazine on the system for the flight. We only burned, I think the report said that we turned in today, we burned 92 pounds coming back in. So there's almost 200 pounds, or just over 200 pounds of hydrazine on board. And then there's an ammonia cooling loop on the vehicle, and I believe we have about half of the ammonia still on board. I think that's around 50 pounds. Don't quote me on the 50 pounds, but somewhere around that. So we have hydrazine and ammonia, and those are the hazardous commodities that we still have to remove.
Thank you.
What was about the size of the team, the number of people on this convoy?
Sure. I was asked what was the size of the team on the convoy. We had 7 members on the spacecraft care and feeding team. We had 2 logistics personnel, 1 NASA, 1 Jacob. We had myself, ground ops manager. We had 2 Jacob's ECS personnel to take care of the purge air in case something were to happen. And we had 2 Lockheed Martin representatives, still their spacecraft, and they took temperature readings of the crew module wirelessly on the way. And then we had our carrier team. We had a couple drivers and pilot cars. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a wide load convoy, but the pilot cars on the radios really get us around traffic and obstacles in the road. that was basically the makeup of the team.
And Phil, wondered if you could speak to, kind of closing out 14, a little over 3 years after the last shuttle mission. We have a space-flown vehicle that you guys put together here at KSC and are analyzing now, and just sort of talk about hump day for the Orion program, and maybe it's a bit of a hump for KSC in general, to move beyond shuttle and into the next program.
Over the hump. That's exactly it. I mean, we feel it coming fast now. There's going to be a tremendous amount of work. The requirements are all settling in. We know what the interface flight vehicle looks like. We're going to start back behind you over here in the launch equipment test facility, also known as the arms farm. That's where we take all the swing arms and umbilicals. That work picks up in January, right, where we're going to go through out with the umbilicals, contract the vehicle while it's sitting on the pad, we're lift off. The mobile launcher, of course, is the base is almost complete with the modifications to make it into SLS. The tower mods are going to start this year, and then immediately we're going to put all kinds of equipment up and down that mobile launcher. Essentially, the equipment that used to be on the launch pad for shuttle is now moved on to the mobile launcher. So that's a huge amount of work. And getting all those systems checked out, run out. I'll be honest, it's scary to me that we got this much work to get done in 3 years. So again, we can't wait to fly it. I've told the guys back in my office, I've been here 30 years, and I think the next 3 years are going to be the most exciting of my career. When we get this thing in the air, late 2017, early 2018, it's just going to be phenomenal.
Can you talk a little bit more about the ascent abort test, the goals and objectives, what rocket and missiles you'll be using, and the pad? And when is the last time you used this pad? I think it may be sometime the work you need to do to prepare for that. Thank you.
Yeah, so the ascent abort flight 2 basically be used using a peacekeeper missile that we have procured, and be launching from the Space Florida launch 46 complex that's being refurbished for this mission to Space Florida. And the purpose is basically, goal is to basically launch the vehicle and test the launch abort system to ensure that the launch abort system can safely pull off the crew capsule from an already launched vehicle. So that's the main goal of SFA.
When was the last time the pad was used?
Oh, I don't know when was the last time the pad was used. It's just being refurbished, so I think it's been a while.
Thank you.
I'm interested in what the future is for this particular module, this vehicle. Is it going to fly in? How many times? Will it be used for crew flights as well? How many other modules will there be?
So this, and that's what these guys were answering. We're going to reuse this particular capsule on our ascent aboard flight. It's called A82. So to follow up on Ken's question as well regarding the ascent aboard, we cannot put people on board of Orion until we prove that the ascent aboard system will save the crew both off the pad, which we've already done. We flew PA-1 several years ago, but we also have to prove that we can save the crew during the most strenuous environments during ascent, and that's what the ascent aboard test will do. So we have to fly that before we can put people on board. That's what we're going to use this crew module as the crew module for the ascent aboard flight. The whole systems are not designed to be reusable. So we build a new Orion every time we fly one. So the next one, someone mentioned earlier, when would the pressure shell show up? But it's going to be November of next year. It's actually its parts are being built for it as we speak. It'll be welded together down at the Michoud facility, just like this one was. And it'll come to us in November. And then we'll put it together here, just like we did this one, test it. And this one's going to fly off of an SLS, though, so that'll be real exciting. Come 2018.
Okay, that's all the time we have for questions. I really want to thank you for coming today. I would ask for all you gentlemen, if you don't mind, please step up and spell your name and your title so everyone has that correctly. And then once that's done, We'll have about 10 minutes for you to look, if you wish, to the yellow line to get these closer photos before Lisa Fowler will give you a 2-minute warning and then it'll be time to go. Also wanted to let you know that as we are moving forward with Orion, we'll be documenting all the moves of this spacecraft as well as the incoming spacecraft, and we'll be posting those on the NASA sites and on social media at NASA, NASA Kennedy, and Orion. And we'll be writing feature stories and links to video, etc., that you'll be able to find at www.nasa.gov/Orion. Thank you all very much for coming.
Louis Garcia, Louie-Garcia, NASA Ground Operations Manager.
And I'm Glenn Chin, Glennchin. I'm Deputy for Orion Production Operations. Thanks for coming up.
I'm Phillips Weber, 1L and 1B, and NASA Ground System Development Operations Senior Technical Manager.
Jules Schneider, that's JULES-SCHNEIDER. I'm the Lockheed Martin Orion KSC Operations Manager.